our worship leaders today, to Jonathan, Daniel, and Phil Ludo. So I want to ask Joe Smith to join me on stage right now. You know, many of you know each other's stories, and you know the background, you know where you've come from, but we don't always know all of each other's stories. And I wanted Joe to come and share a little bit about how he came to become a follower of Jesus Christ. This is Joe Smith. See if it's on.
Hello?
It is on. All right. Joe is better known as the husband of Mary Jane Smith, the father of Gabriella and Natalie Smith. And Joe, tell us a little bit about how you became a follower of Christ.
Well, like the pastor was saying, a lot of you, I don't think there's anybody here who really knows my story except my wife and my kids. But I grew up in a place called Camden, New Jersey. And Camden, New Jersey is best known for the murder capital of the United States. And that's where I grew up.
Wait a minute, Joe. You didn't murder anybody.
No, I didn't murder. I didn't murder anybody, right?
I didn't know there's police officers here, so I don't know if you want to go there. But I'm sorry.
So that's where I grew up, and there was a lot of stuff that I witnessed. There was a lot of stuff that I took part in that I'm not very proud of. And I grew up in a broken family, to make matters worse, even living in that situation, and then coming from a broken family, not having a father. So, right from the beginning, I just had a bad start. But, somehow through the years, I met a wonderful wife who I was married when I was 20. And so, we've been through a lot. And she's put up with a lot, a lot of immaturity, a lot of sin. And through that, we went on a great journey to Seattle. We were going to help out a relative for a medical emergency. At least that's what we thought it was. But, God was pulling us there, and he took us to this church. And in that church, first of all, let me say this. My wife is the one that went after the church, and my daughter. As usual, I was following in her shadows, letting her do all the work, and me not being a Christian. Just, I knew I needed something, but I didn't know how to find it. And, thankfully, she was able to lead me to this church. And through that church, I guess the first thing I noticed in that church, which was really amazing, is that I saw these young men and women walking up to the church, one hand holding each other and the other one holding a Bible. And I'm like, what's going on here? I'm not used to this stuff. And went into that church. And I think at that point, when I went into that church, that's where everything changed.
So the Bible was not something that was really a part of your background.
No, I grew up as
even though you grew up in a church, really.
I grew up as a Catholic, where we went to church, maybe for the holidays, maybe at spurts for a couple months going to church and then falling away from it, and not really knowing the Bible at all. Being a Catholic. A funny story. My father-in-law went to church when I first came here to the Catholic church, and I was carrying my Bible to church. And he goes, oh, we don't need that here. And it was a Catholic church. And I'm just like, oh, hold on a second here, So that's the kind of thing that I went through. And then going into this other church in Seattle and seeing that. And then listening to a sermon for an hour about Christ and hearing all these weird words like justification, the great exchange, just redemption. And then it really just pulling on my heart. And that's where it changed. And then what was great that happened about 3 years ago. So then, I was introduced to Christ that way, in a more formal way, or where before it was just a more superficial Christ that I knew. And here I was on a personal level with them. And then I found myself not only wanting to go to church every week, but just running there. And then sitting in there and listening to the pastor and wanting him to talk longer when he's done. And it's just something that just changed my heart, that whole progression there. And then just before we were about to leave Seattle to come to Florida, I wasn't baptized yet. I was baptized as a baby, but never, as an adult, as a believer. And I got that chance to do that, and that was not this past Father's Day, but the Father's Day before that. And like I said, I came from a broken family, and Father's Day never really meant anything to me. And, just on this Father's Day, I was able to give the Lord the greatest gift of all, and that was me. And I was able to then baptize my whole entire family. So, it was just a gift that I was just so glad to give him. And then just to realize, that my whole entire life, I was trying to be the one to save myself. And then I just finally realized that I can't save myself. It's him that saves me. And that's my story.
Amen. Thank you so much, Joe. Praise the Lord. So many of you have a similar story because I know a lot of your stories, and you were raised in some kind of a church background, but until you got older and started to examine things for yourself, or maybe you had a problem, that's when you started to realize that this God is more than just someone to go hear about on Sunday, but He's someone who wants to live with you every day. He's someone who wants to be a part of your life, and He wants to save you and change your life miraculously. So thanks, Joe, for sharing that. This morning our message is called Testimony, so I felt like it'd be appropriate to start with a testimony. Have you ever needed to have your thinking adjusted? Have you ever had to reorient your thinking? AJ Puente actually got to reorient Park Vista's thinking. This is AJ right here. See him up there? This is the front page of the sports section of Sun Sentinel yesterday. So congratulations, AJ Puente, for reorienting the thinking. Could you have brought a football or something so you could throw us how you throw the ball? But I understand Park Vista was trash talking you guys pretty bad, and AJ got to be a part of reorienting their thinking as local high school Atlantic crushed Park Vista 26-7, right, AJ? Sometimes we need to reorient our thinking. Someone else had their thinking reoriented yesterday, I believe, at about 13,000 feet. Can you recognize who that is? Now, I think that that's just a green screen behind her, and she's actually just dangling a few feet off the ground. That is Caitlin Shaw, and she is falling 13,000 feet. Is that right, Caitlin? Something like that? Yeah. Her dad caused her to do this. Now, that's a father right there. You know what I'm saying? And the interesting thing is, Mike is a pilot, and he jumped out of a plane. I don't know. There's just something that doesn't work with that. Here's a perfectly good plane that Mike decides to push his daughter out of and then to dive out himself. But you know, our thinking needs to be reoriented at times. Yesterday, Julie and I had an adventure. We went car shopping. Haven't been car shopping in a while. This is not the picture of car shopping. I failed to put that in. This has nothing to do with car shopping. How many of you really enjoy shopping for a vehicle? Almost all men, except for Mimi. We went out, and I had already done the research, and Julie's car at $200,000, we decided maybe it needed to be replaced. And so we went out, and I had already looked at a couple of vehicles, and I found one that I thought she would like, and we went driving. It was going to be yet another mom-mobile. You know what a mom-mobile is, right? Lots of room, lots of size, big, huge thing going down the road. Not terribly green, but, it hauls everything and everybody everywhere. They're wonderful. So I had the car picked out I thought she would like, and we were just going to test drive it. And we went driving down the road, and you know what she said? It's just a woman talking. She said, something's not right. Really? She said, it's vibrating like it shouldn't be. She said, I think our car runs smoother than this. And so I'm thinking, what? And so we're driving down the road, and I'm thinking, well, it's no big deal. She doesn't know what she's talking about, probably. I'm thinking that, right? Guys, you never think that about your wives. Anytime they say anything about your car that's wrong, oh, yes, honey, you just respond immediately. You take it to the shop, and you get it fixed. But we're driving down the road, and she says, you know what? It rides rougher, too. And this is a newer version of the same car that we had. And she said it rides rougher, and we're going down the road, and I'm starting to realize, it does kind of ride rough. Why am I buying something that rides rougher than the one that we have? And we're driving down the road, and she says, you know what? It's kind of all over the road. It kind of reminds me of the old mom-mobile we had years ago. We had the living room on wheels, the conversion van. Have you ever had one of those? They're amazing. But it is like driving a building, It's not terribly aerodynamic. And so I'm thinking as we're going down there, I began to think, I turned to her and I said, you know what? I don't think this is the right car. And I had my thinking reoriented right there, listening to my wife talk about this vehicle. And I realized this is not even the right type of car. And so we got back to the lot and we went after a totally different vehicle. Something I didn't even expect. Have you ever had God do that? As you're going in one direction, and boy, you're pretty sure this is the way you're going. This is the right way. But then God kind of stops you and says, you know what, this isn't right. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's not the right thing, the right job. This week I spent a couple days in Fort Myers. And that's code word for the pastor's away studying at the beach. That's what that means. And what it means is sleeping late, eating lots of food, and doing nothing. No, it doesn't. Everybody's going, oh, that sounds good. That sounds really good. That's what I would do if I were you. Occasionally, I have to get away and reorient my thinking. I spend some time just hearing from God at a place where I don't really know anybody. Have you ever had to do that? Have you spent some time reorienting your thinking? This morning, as we study this passage about testimony, it's testimony about Jesus Christ, I think we'll see a lot of times our thinking needs to be reoriented to God. Because we tend to think like everyone else around us. We tend to think like humans. And that's a dangerous, dangerous place to be. We're in John chapter 5. Oh, wait a minute. A couple other things. Anybody read Oswald Chambers? If you don't, you should. If you don't, you're probably going to hell. Visitors are going, I'm not coming back here. This guy said I'm going to hell if I'm not reading a book. It's not the Bible. How can he say that? That's not even funny. Oswald Chambers said this, and this is the classic devotional, My Utmost for His Highest. He said this, you are expecting God to tell you to do a big thing, and all He is telling you to do is come. It's from a passage in Matthew that says, come unto me, all you who are weak and heavy laden, and I will take care of you. I'll give you rest. You know, we think of all these great things God must want us to do. We've got all this stuff we got to do. And all Jesus is saying, I just want you to come to me. I just want you to make yourself available to me. I just want to pull yourself away and make yourself available to me. David Platt, in his book Radical, which incidentally Mike Shaw will be teaching very, very soon. It's a great, great study. Said this. He said, God gave His people His image for a reason, so they might multiply His image throughout the world. He created human beings not only to enjoy His grace in a relationship with Him, but also to extend His glory to the ends of the earth. Simple enough. Enjoy His grace. Extend His glory. Simple restatement of the Great Commission. What are we really supposed to do? We're supposed to enjoy what God has done and move that out and share that with the world. Enjoy His grace. Extend His glory. Sometimes I got to tell you, I need to have my thinking reoriented to what God expects of us and wants of us. John chapter 5, beginning in verse 31. John chapter 5, beginning in verse 31. Jesus, as you know, at this point is under attack. People are upset with Him because He's healed someone on the Sabbath. Sabbath is supposed to be a day of rest. You're not supposed to do any work. And because Jesus healed someone, that was considered work. And He also told the man to pick up his sleeping bag, his bedroll, and carry it away. And that was really work. And that's what really got him in trouble, because as the man walked away, carried his bedroll, the Jewish leaders, the Pharisees of the day, saw him and said, hey, you're not supposed to do that. He said, I've been healed. They said, I don't care. You're still not supposed to do that. And so they came after Jesus for healing on the Sabbath and for telling this